Welcome to another podcast of Live Talk, guys. It's been a while. It's been a long time. We had quite some time to set up this podcast corner here in the beautiful office in Golden Mile, Marbella. Please, if you have any suggestions of guests that Kaspar and me need to be hosting here, you please let us know. The last podcast we actually did together.
Oh, that was the last one?
Yes, this was the last podcast because after that, we did the introduction. We've been talking about like what we're going to be doing. We talked about your story, and I am really sorry that I had such a long time to just get things going again, but here we are. And Kaspar, I want to thank you, first of all, for allowing this to happen, for allowing this space to be here, and just to get really good guest conversations going. There's a lot to be talked about. We live in quite some challenging times, so to say. We are both from two different generations, so I think that's what is going to be very appealing, to see what your perspective is and mine, and see what we can learn from each other instead of talking about our differences from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. So what connects us, what can we learn from each other, and where are we heading with the current market situation? How you been since our last podcast?
When was it, the last podcast? A couple of months ago.
A couple of months ago, I think so, yeah.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for being here in our space. And I think we have a good relationship. And I think this is a really good start of new developments, I think. It's now the beginning of September, so the summer is a little bit behind us in Marbella. And as you know, it's always, if you live in an area like this with a lot of tourists, so you have your peak moments in July, August are peak moments. It's really busy here. And now it's getting a little bit back to normal, and I like it. The weather is still in the summer mode. It's still 30 degrees every day, but you see it on the way around Porto Banús, Marbella. It's much more quiet, and I think I like it. I like this time of the year. April, May in the beginning, September, October. I think that are the most beautiful times here in the south of Spain. And hopefully it starts raining again this month or next month, because we need it. I went to Ronda with our business club, and then if you see, and it's quite scary if you see, it's normal for this time of the year, but you see some places that are so dry.
Mm.
So I hope that, so yeah, to summarize, it's going well. Happy that September, and hopefully that rain helps us through the rest of the year.
So how's the business been?
Good.
Yeah.
I was on holidays the first 2.5 weeks of August, and always when I go on holidays, so next time I will tell you upfront, something happens with the market. And the market went, I went on Thursday, yeah. I left Friday, the market went down. The day after, Monday, the market was down. So I was in Colombia, in Medellin, and I was calling with Martin, and my colleague, he is sitting normally behind me, about the market, because it went really fast. We recovered a lot, and also this week, it's also going down. There's a little bit pressure on the market, mostly based of the outlook of the economy of the US, and so yeah, it's a moment, I think, that we are on two different paths. We can recover again, but also, yeah, this can also be the beginning of a new slide going down.
Yeah. So we noticed for the people that are actually investing, that have also listened to our previous podcast, we talked a little bit about the market conditions, and we've seen it change very rapidly. We've seen the situation in the world change very rapidly. So I just wanted to talk about that. I received some questions about Warren Buffett going more liquid now. I don't know exactly the numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but he sold a big portion of his Apple stock recently, which everybody now is watching. Like, hey, there's a reason why he's doing that, because he's expecting a market crash, which is not a bad thing to happen, because as an investor, you can then buy back cheaper. So is that what he's doing, and is that where you expect we're heading?
First of all, I think Warren Buffett is the best investor in the world. So you have to listen to him. If he says something or he does something, you must pay attention to it. On the other hand, he was already cash for years. So he had already big cash position for years. Also, his story was, I expect a drop in the market. So he's not always right. And it's also funny, but because we have a lot of investors, they're buy and hold investors, so they buy a stock for the long term and they never touch it for 5 years, and then after 5 years they will rethink what they want to do with it. And then they say, yeah, Warren Buffett is also a buy and hold investor. But actually, Warren Buffett is not a buy and hold investor. He's an active investor. He has a really big portfolio and he has a lot of Apple shares, but he trades every day in those shares. So in the morning, he reads everything, of course, and then he decides, okay, I'm going to buy some extra Apple shares. So maybe 95% of his Apple shares he holds until recently where he sold a big part. But normally he holds like 95% and he trades with a small part. So, but that's for the perception. I think people should realize. So he has a long-term vision. He holds his stock, but in the meanwhile, he trades also with it. So he's not only a buy and hold investor. I think that what he's doing, that makes sense because markets are high. Yeah. If you look at the past, I don't know anything about the future because with something that's high can go higher. But if you look at the past and if you look at the averages of the market is quite high. So I understand what he is doing. And also, what I never understood from him is that his big position in Apple. Because I don't know the figures exactly, but he had an exposure in Apple. It went well. He made a profit. But from an investment perspective, with those figures, I find it more logical if you spread more. So his individual exposure in Apple was so big, I didn't understand that always completely.
Got it. I obviously am from a different generation, as I mentioned before, where we...
You don't see that.
I know. You wouldn't tell, right? You wouldn't tell. The thing is when I talk to my peers, we're talking about the next crypto wave, whereas like maybe you're looking at when I speak to you, I feel you are very on the conservative side. When you speak to your peers, you're just not, right? So I just want to talk about a perspective for a moment because we see a lot of my peers like 20, 30-year-olds get wrecked, as we call, because they see on social media, they see online, they see a lot of profits and a lot of 100, 200x, 1000x on tokens, on cryptos, and they feel like, hey, if this person can do that who was 14 years old, I can do the same, right? So I think it's necessary to talk about this for a second because I really see some good guys get wrecked heavily. I've seen people even close to me, I won't mention their names, we've had conversations where they sold their home to get into crypto with their entire life savings, hoping that, and then, by the way, in some cases that went into Bitcoin, they actually had a very good success story, more money than you can make on any real estate. And it's not in my benefit to say that, but that's the truth. You know, and what is your perspective on that? I'm sure you're seeing that, even though your demographic is mainly people, I think, that are a bit older, like maybe 40 plus.
No, yeah. First of all, we have clients from really young to really old, but yeah, we have a big part of our clients. The group is like 40 plus. But on the other hand, I know a lot of clients that are in the 70s or 80s. They're also investing or trading with Bitcoin. But they do it on the side, and I think I spoke last time also about it. I think that's good. You have different asset classes where you can invest in. You have real estate, you have gold, you have cash, you have shares, and I think that crypto is an asset class. And I think by spreading your risk with investing, you must always think about your risk. And one way of risk management is spread your investment over different asset classes. So I'm never saying I will never go in gold or you put everything in real estate. I have a lot of money invested in the stock market, but I also have real estate as investment. Do I think that I make more money with real estate? That's not the question. The question is I spread my risk because I don't have a glass ball. I don't know the future. But I can manage my risk. I can't manage my returns. And I think that you can also you can trade with cryptocurrencies, but you can also invest. You can say, okay, I believe in crypto; it will go to 100,000 within the next 10 years, and I leave it, and I decide for myself certain moments to step in, and then you look at it from an investment perspective, and you do that for 5 or 10% of your liquidity, of your net worth. Okay, then you have a plan. But I would never put all your money in gold, or all your money in a crypto, or all your money in shares. And so is it an asset class? I think yes, it is. But then you have to decide where I'm going to invest in. And I think it's really good what you said about that. There's a lot in social media where people show only their profits, and that's really dangerous because, especially young people, they believe in that. But it's also, humans are like that. If you are successful in something, in a trade or in something you did, you are proud and you express it. You want to show it to another. And if you make a loss, it's not something that you are really proud of, so you're not going to say it. So it's also normal that people on social media, they share the profits. On the other hand, I think it's also dangerous that they show only the profits and that people believe in it. Because I always say, if you put money on a saving account and you get 1%, 2%, but that's an easy way to do it. There is not an easy way to make 20%. It doesn't exist. You can make 20% with investing or trading, or 30%, but you have to work hard. You have to know the products. You have to do risk management, and then it's possible with trading in Apple shares or in a crypto.
You mentioned we have to work hard. That's, I think, exactly the problem. The generation now, even younger than me, 18 up, between 18 and 24. These guys, they don't want to work hard. They want to get rich quick. And this is a mindset problem where I think that it needs to be addressed and talked about, because I feel that we're disconnected. I feel that not just it's going to cause problems for our future and for the way we build things, the cleaners we need, the guy in the restaurant that is going to serve us. I see more and more people are getting lazy. Society is getting lazier. They all want to get rich quick. They want to get that golden nugget, that stock that's going to do 1,000x. I really want to talk about expectation management from an expert like yourself, who's been doing this your entire life. You build a business around it. In my eyes, conservatively. So, guys, I see too many people getting wrecked, as we say, thinking that they can become millionaires in 1 week. Are there people that actually are doing it? Yes, of course. It's not just all fake. I know some people firsthand that actually found that meme coin, but that's luck. That's like winning a lottery. You know what I mean? That's not investing.
It's luck. It's luck.
Yeah, it's luck. Yeah. And at the end of the day, especially in this crypto market and in any market, there's always winners and losers. If one guy is gonna win, another guy is losing. So that's something that you have to put in perspective.
But on the other hand, I think that after the big dip, a lot of people realized that cryptos are high risk. Mm-hmm. A lot of people stopped, but also a lot of people they said, okay, I accept the high risk in it, but I'm going to change my strategy. And they are now focusing on technical analysis, and they take stop losses, etc., etc. So I think it's also the people that go on with it. If something doesn't work and you don't change your plan, the chance that it doesn't work again is big. But if you change your plan, you realize the risk aspect and you adapt that in your strategy, and then you can be successful. It's also possible. So I think it's when we have a new investor that never invested, I hope always, and sometimes I say it because some people they understand when I'm saying. Sometimes they say, okay, that's a little strange to say, I don't understand. I hope that their first trades, that they don't make money with it. They lose money on it, because then in your system, in your DNA, from the first moment you realize the risk. Because if you and that is also the problem with the COVID period. because of a lot of people were at home. They started investing in the stock market or in cryptos, and a lot of money came into the market, so prices went up. So a lot of people, they experienced, for their first investments, they experienced huge profits. And that's normal. We are all humans. They think, oh, that's normal. But it isn't normal. So if you think that's normal, you don't look at the risk, you don't build in stop losses, and then suddenly it happens. And then, it's also possible that they can lose a lot. So I think that was for a lot of people, and there are only a few people that step in low and they step out high and never go back again in it. So that's also luck, that you decide when you don't do anything anymore. But I think that the people that keep on going, and if they change the strategy, they can be successful. And if you trade, it doesn't matter where you trade it, because you trade. It doesn't matter if you trade in tables, or in cars, or in crypto, or in the DAX future. It doesn't matter, because you make small profits. So you must understand a little bit, you must affinity with the underlying value, so with the DAX or with the tables. Then you have to trade with it. And then trading has nothing to do almost with investing, because you use just a product to step in and step out.
Understood. Yeah. And I'm really glad you touched on this, because it's a topic that is sensitive. We talk a lot about...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jesse, but I think that, when was the gold rush in the US? 1800 something, I believe. It's also in humankind. We want to the beach is 300 meters from here. I think most of us want to be on the beach and make money during being on the beach every day. And we are also, everybody has some laziness in her or in him. And I think it's good to have a drive to earn money. I think we need that drive, and also to earn it in an easy way. The drive is good, but then if it doesn't come the easy way, you have to do something to get the money, because then you are thinking about being more effective and more smart, if that's your drive. So the drive itself is good, but you must also accept that the world is not that you can sit here or go to the beach and make the money without doing nothing. It is only for...
It doesn't help, though, that daddy government prints unlimited amount of money, while now people start to wake up from that money is not real. Money is a created concept that holds no actual standard or value anymore, as we had in the past. The gold, right? It was tied to the gold standard. Well, when did it end? Like 74 or something, 1974, something like that. So we're looking now at the amount of inflation. We're now looking at that there is banks and institutions, Federal Reserve, they just have to press a few buttons. And we're here in today's world where there's AI. Some jobs become obsolete. We have the psychology, collective psychology around the world, where we see that jobs become obsolete, where we see that the government is printing unlimited amounts of money. So the trust in the system as we know it becomes lower and lower. So therefore, hey, wait a second. I see these young guys printing money, thinking that I can be free, e-com, all these things. Of course, diversification we talked about. But to be fair, I understand why this younger generation is starting to be like, hey, you know what? Why am I doing this? Why am I part of this system, this slaving away for a piece of the pie, while there's others, the elites, are printing unlimited amounts of money?
Yeah.
So I understand it. I also want to reach out to you. Like it's like, it's not that I don't resonate or don't emphasize with it. However, I'm also an optimist. I do think that if we get, especially the younger generation, if we get really caught up in this dark rabbit hole, then we don't want to do anything anymore. We have to. This is part of our life. We have to find our way. We have to bounce back. Our world is going to change. The way we know it now, it's not going to be the same. We're going to get rid of cash. Cashless societies are going to be coming. They're going to control the way we spend, control the way we live our lives. It's already happening in China, by the way. Social credit score system. So it's out there. It's coming. But yeah.
But I do agree with you. But I also want to say something against it, and especially for the young people, because, for example, if you look at the financial crisis of 2008, it started in the beginning of 2008. It began on the stock market, and then later it went into the real economy. Also, if you look at the crisis before, there was a big crisis on the stock market in 2000, markets halved. The governments printed less money during the financial crisis than what they did in the last COVID crisis, let's say it like that. They printed less. You can also say, because of that, the crisis existed for a longer period and a deeper period. Because if a crisis stays too long, it's getting more deep, and it will hurt more sectors and more people. So you can also say, by printing, what happened a couple of years ago, okay, inflation went up, another negative aspect. But on the other hand, because of that, there wasn't a deep crisis, because we helped a lot of people in society. We helped governments, we helped private persons, we gave them money on energy, all kind of aspects were going on, and maybe that helped going into a deep crisis. So printing money is not only negative.
Understood. Actually, a good point there. And right now we're in a situation where
but you know what's
inflation.
But governments, you know, if you print money, what will happen with the economy? You can wait for it. So what I don't like of the governments and from the central banks, if you say, okay, we lower the interest rates, we print money, then you know you can wait for high inflation, and then you should warn people. They should act upfront, because you can do something against inflation, and you can say, okay, we make agreements on energy level, on housing level, on a salary level, and the governments or the people that are in charge of those decisions, they know exactly what the outcome will be, and they know exactly which month the inflation starts, and probably to a certain level. And that's, I think you can blame them, because they turn that button, okay, printing money, low interest rates, and they know, okay, if you do this, and it will pop up there. So they shouldn't have act up front, and not, okay, now we have high inflation, and what now?
What are your thoughts on the cashless society that's coming for us all?
I think we are both from the Netherlands. I think the Netherlands already has a big cash. You hardly can't pay with cash. If you go to the US, it's more the opposite. There are a lot of places you can only pay with cash. Germany is also a much more cash country than the Netherlands. Spain is a little bit in between. So I think we are not yet in that society. I think that you should always to have two streams, cash and I have everything on my phone, but you can see it. I've always like €100 in my back of my phone, because I want to have cash. And I think you should not push society in the direction. You can help, and I think there are also benefits of paying without cash money. But I think you should not. It's also like electric cars. The governments push everybody to an electric car, but I think it's always the solution a little bit in between. Mm-hmm. A hybrid car, a petrol car, an electric car. I think that's the solution. Don't force people to go, because now, especially Germany, has big problems with their cars. So 30% of their car production is GDP of Germany. So it's a really heavy sector. And now that they're realizing that they pushed so much, they invested so much in the electric car industry, they are losing it from the Chinese. So they don't know what to do. Do they need to go back to the petrol? Do they shift to other products? So if you push a society to one direction, then always things happen. So I think it should be a little bit imbalanced, not too strict.
You don't think it's about controlling your money, controlling what you do with your money, knowing exactly where and how you spend it?
Yeah, yes and no, because I think if you are with a corporate, with a big bank, and you pay everything with that card, especially in Europe, you have quite strict rules. They can't sell, for example, that data. It's not allowed. So that data is not widely spread over society. You mentioned China. China is a different story. There, you get the credit points, and if you have enough credit points, you are first in line in the bus.
So social credit score.
But I don't believe in that. But
you don't think that's going to come here? You don't?
No,
think
I don't think so.
Result?
No, I hope not.
Yeah.
And I also maybe it's more hope than what I think. But I don't think that's. And I think that's not. So I think that the information about your payments are in the hands of banks, and they can't do a lot with that information.
So you're thinking it's not going to come for us here, even though they're introducing that slowly and gradually, where also now they're doing the insurance, where they're going to check how you live, how your spending is, you pay your bills on time, and that those are very like mild things. Right? But they're going to start with insurance. Oh, wait, you're a good person, you pay on time, you don't smoke, you don't spend on cigarettes, yada, yada, yada. All right, check. You can get a better rate than your neighbor.
Yeah.
Or this insurance on your car.
But
that's where it's going to start.
Yeah.
And now in China, they ban people from the subway, from the train, because they spoke out about the government or they said something critically. So our freedom of speech is really under attack, and not just in China. It's happening slowly and gradually here. I hope you're right. I hope it's going to stop there. That it's just going to be a centralized system.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So it's about data, no? What does somebody knows about you?
It's about allowing freedom with our money, our money we work for, and not being able to be controlled.
But I think
as an example, I should be able to speak freely on this podcast without having fear of consequences. The moment I have to now be scared because of somebody is going to think or do this to me, I am no longer speaking freely, which is a big concern. Even in the West, we see it happening. People get canceled, people get banned, people get restricted access to their bank accounts. Like, it's scary things. I do disagree that it's like not happening. I do see it happening, and it's like, hey, listen, if you have cash, at least they can't block that. In fact, if there is a power outage, we've seen it before. It was recently, my wife and me were on the road. We tried to pay for gas. I'm like, excuse me, sir, our system is down and you cannot leave. I couldn't leave because I just put gas in the car. So you have to pay. I'm like, how?
That's why I have always the €100.
Yes, exactly. So this is why I was able
the hybrid model
to pay with cash. But guess what? If I didn't have the cash with me, you know, so this is another thing. Like it just.
But if you look at a society, then you have the banks. They are a certain sector, and you have the private sector, and you have the government. And I think what you mentioned, it's about somebody knows something about you. So it's about data, and also. You have the financial data, your payments. What do you do with your payments? And I think that's only one part. If you look at, if you... by the way, I agree with you. I remember now when I still lived in the Netherlands, like 20 years ago, what I did, it just popped up in my mind. What I did, I went to the cash machine every Friday, at I think it was 6 o'clock, and I took €100 out of the machine, something like that. So I said to myself, if I do every time the same thing, there's no pattern, so they know nothing about me. So you do see that I think like that. It just popped up in my mind. I did it for maybe half a year, every year, and then I spent the money. But I think that was 20 years ago now. I think that what I just said, banks, they can't do that much with that data. I think if you look at the private sector, you look at Google, if you look at Apple, what they know about you, and they have also their restrictions, but they have less restrictions than banks. I think if you worry, and I understand your worries, I think you should more focus on that sector, the private sector, than on the banking sector.
Okay.
And then, of course, within the banking, you can have multiple accounts, and you can have a Revolut account, and you can, or you do what I did 20 years ago, you go to the cash machine at the same. I even went to the same cash machine so I thought, so I do agree with what you're saying. I think in Europe we have another history than in China, and I think it will always be different. But I think the most worrying part is more, I think, in the private, in the big corporations. But the insurance companies are also one part of that.
Yeah, and also right now, just to add on that, the €1,000 limit. If your expense, as an example, you go to store, whatever, if the expense is more than €1,000, you cannot pay with cash.
Yeah.
If it's under 1,000, you can. You can also not deposit more than €1,000 to your bank. So they're imposing restrictions as we speak.
Yeah.
It's happening in real time, So,
but they're the governments. The governments say per country, this is the restriction on the and they say, and I do also understand that a little bit. I do agree with a big part of the money laundering is going through cash. If we can push that out, then automatically we probably have less money laundering. So that's one of the arguments, and I do believe in that.
Oh, of course, that's the good part about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only good part. The other part, I think, outweighs any restriction, cashless society that we're going towards. So we're gonna have AI. We're gonna have jobs that are gonna become obsolete. We're gonna have cash.
Yeah.
Going to be disappearing. It's happening in real time, good and bad. And then we have people asking, all right, where we're heading, what should we be doing with our cash?
Yeah.
Should we sit on it? Should we wait? Should we wait until the market crashes? Is it going to happen? So there's so many questions right now, and the world is like in a dark place.
Yes. You said in the beginning you're positive.
I am an optimist.
Yeah, optimist.
Absolutely, yeah. But I'm also a realist.
But I think Jesse, there are always times that there are problems in the world. And with the financial crisis, 2008, 2009, 10, it was really. I was here in Spain. It was really, especially here with unemployment rates of more than 20%. In Marbella, a lot of people left, so it was a strange energy here. We had the dot-com crisis in 2000. We had oil crisis. We had the war in 95 in Yugoslavia. There are always problems in the world. I can't remember that we lived in a time there was nothing was going on. So that's always the case. And I think if you look at Europe, we live in Europe. I think Europe also has problems. But on the other hand, if you look much further back in time, in Europe, we always were in war with each other. The French with the English, the Dutch with the Germans, the Dutch with the French, the French with the Spanish. There was always war. And now, since World War II, and in Yugoslavia we had in 95, but we are working together. We are talking to each other. So I think there are also positive movements. If you compare, you should not look at it from a really small time scale, but from 100 years ago. I think we're living in a quite peaceful world, except what's happening in Israel, except what's happening, of course, in Ukraine.
The big difference right now is we're not fighting each other anymore with just guns and sticks and stones. We're talking about nuclear warfare, which means if one person pushes that button, it's over for many of us. I wouldn't say all, depends on how big it is, but you know what I mean? And that's where there is this anxiety around the world and people like, okay, this is different.
How big do you think that chance is that one of both parties is pushing the button? How do you
I mean, this is a very political question, politically loaded question. I mean, right now, it's likely, right? If we look at, I think there's like levels of expectation, and I think we're in, what is it called again? The US has this stages. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's like, I think stage 3. You have stage 4, and then after that, it's like it's been happening. So it's high, it's likely, likely, that's what it is, or highly likely, stuff like that. So we're looking at Russia, we're looking at Israel, we're looking at what's happening, and the world is watching that. Yeah. And that's also why I believe somebody like Trump, as an example, by the way, who was on X and retweeted me, I think he is one of those disruptors. That's why I tried to assassinate him as well recently, where like we can talk about this for hours, where a gunman was able to walk up a roof without being seen Anyway, so whatever you think of Trump, he is going to go against the establishment. He is getting there, and we're going to see what's going to be happening. I think the United States is a big player into what the rest of the world is going to be looking at, has been looking at, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting, and it's also scary. Why? Because it might, if the opposite side is going to win, we might also see a lot of fighting just in the country, which is going to expand over. While Trump promises to end wars, to go in communication, because he's a strong leader. He has a certain presence, he knows all of these people. So that's what the world needs, like diplomacy, but with a strong leader. Nobody took Biden serious.
But do you think if you speak with you speak with a lot of people, is the fear of a nuclear war, do people talk about it with you? Is that something they're top of mind, yeah?
I mean, you're on X, right? On Twitter? Former Twitter, like, you see it trending a lot. Like, right now, like, at least once or twice a week, I see it trending.
Yeah.
So that means, if it's trending, it means people are speaking about this actively. Yeah. Like, this happens, people are like, so this is obviously something that doesn't live with me, it doesn't live with the world. And I'm talking to you about it because it's trending. So it's like, hey, if people are seeing that, they're seeing what's happening.
I don't hear it that much.
Because we live in a bubble. We live here in Costa del Sol. But I'm watching US politics. I'm watching late at night. I'm like researching because I have a lot of US friends. My biggest audience still is US till this day. And I love the USA. And the rest of the world, believe it or not, is watching the USA, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Right? The US dollar is still the dominant currency.
I think if you look at the Reagan period, I think he did a lot of good things.
Yeah.
He was afraid of one thing, and that was communism. And the big players now in the world are the Russians and the Chinese. So a lot of people, all Americans will say that, you see, okay, he was right in that period. Not only he, that are the aggressors. On the other hand, I think that it's also an interesting time, and it's interesting to see the position of China. And I think that if you look at history, China is not an aggressor. If you compare Europe, we are always good in pointing at finger at other places. Oh, what are they doing there? What are they doing in the Middle East? Well, look at ourselves. What Europe did. I was in Colombia at the beginning of last month. And I was in Cartagena, it's a beautiful city, and it's completely Spanish. If Spain didn't conquer the northern part of the south of America, there wasn't those buildings were there. So I think it's always, we as Europeans, we should always be a little bit careful to judge that easy to other parts in the world. And I think especially China hasn't, of course, the discussion about Taiwan, and I had yesterday also a discussion about it. They are not the aggressor. They never were the aggressor. Maybe, and I'm saying it now, and tomorrow they will attack Taiwan. I don't think it will happen. But we should take that into consideration. And I think it's also really interesting what's happening. The role of America, the elections, China, Russia, India. I think it's also really interesting to see what happened and what movement, what will. I hope that we don't talk about winners, but that we make solutions. So it's ridiculous.
Very politically correct of you. So I was hoping for you to say that the possible winner, but I guess you won't go there. Anyway,
in a war are no winners.
No. I mean like the elections.
Oh, the elections.
You have a favor. You have a winner.
I do agree with you that Trump is a strong leader. And I think what you always see, if somebody goes for the second term, you never go for the third term because that's not allowed. So in the second term, somebody can do more because he's not. He can do more because he knows that that's the last 4 years. And I think that he will and he can go into the history books of the person that made the solutions. And I think he's the example of the American society and it's a good, bad, a left, right, And he has already, I think, on one paper, the solution for Israel, and on the other paper, on the back side,
Exactly.
he flaps the solution. And I think he can do that. I think he can succeed in that. And I think that's the best thing that we can have for the near future if those problems are solved. And I think he's the best man for that job. I think he's not the best president. I think he's also, what he's doing with the climate, that is too strict. I think he doesn't see any climate risks, and I don't agree with that. And I think I maybe also remember that when he was president, every day the newspapers were about Trump. Front page, Trump said this, Trump did that. He had to rectify or this or people. So he's also so. I think that Biden does more on the background, and I think it should be a mix between different parties. I think. Is it again a political answer?
Yeah, I do think so, but that's all right. I mean, that's all right. That's why we're different, no? That's all right. Listen, I am excited because we're gonna wrap this up. I want you to end with some advice. We're already on a time slot now because we started later. It's almost 7:30. Believe it or not, we can talk on for hours. We're gonna do more.
We're
gonna do some
more actual topics.
Actual topics and some value. This is just like I said, guys, we're back. We're going to be doing different podcasts again. I'm very excited to bring on different kind of guests, and we're going to be having different kind of conversations, entrepreneurs, investing, trading, the world situation, politics, love, psychology, you name it, kind of life. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to share. I'm very excited to pick this up again here in the podcast corner. Kaspar, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
You asked me for the last advice.
Exactly. What are the last words?
Now, I think that we live in a difficult time, but there are solutions. Mm-hmm. And I believe in mankind, and I think people will make solutions. So I'm positive about the future. And I think from an investment perspective, you always should look. You never should listen to somebody else. You can listen, but you have to make your own decisions. And if somebody says, okay, Berkshire Hathaway is now more cash, you should buy Berkshire Hathaway. You should make your own plan. You say, okay, I have a certain amount of money that I want to invest. I have 20% invested now. Then you can look in this time for invest the other 30, 40%. If you have nothing invest, you can buy almost everything. And I think that, but if you are heavily invested, you should be careful. And I think there are always chances, and make your own plan how active you want to be. It's also, if you want to be in crypto, decide for yourself the percentage in crypto. Don't believe the people on the television that say that the economy is fantastic. Don't believe the people on social media that this crypto will go up at 200% in the next days. Make your own plan. Listen, but make your own plan.
Amazing. Lovely advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next time.
What's great as always. Thank you.
Awesome.